The message from the Galactic Council arrived on a Tuesday morning, and it changed everything for humanity. Ambassador Kate Sullivan stood in the war room beneath Geneva, her face pale as she delivered the news. The Wraith Empire wanted 3 of Earth's colony worlds. If humanity refused, the Wraith would take them by force. They had 7 days to decide. Admiral Ben Carter sat at the head of the table, his jaw tight. He looked at the holographic display showing Earth's military strength. 47 warships. That was all humanity had. The Wraith were bringing over 300. The math was simple and terrifying. Earth would lose. "We need options," Ben said, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "What do we have that they don't expect?" His officers shuffled through data files and tactical reports. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. In a straight fight, humanity would be wiped out within hours. The Wraith had better shields, faster ships, and weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Earth's military had been built for exploration and small conflicts, not a war against a galactic empire. One junior officer, a woman named Lisa Grant, raised her hand slowly. She was the chief engineer at the orbital shipyard, known for fixing impossible problems with creative solutions. Ben nodded at her. "Sir, there's one ship," Lisa said quietly. "It's old, really old, but it might work." Ben frowned. "What ship?" "The Valiant," Lisa replied. "The prototype from 40 years ago." The room went silent. Everyone knew about the Valiant. It was a legend, but not the good kind. The ship had been built as Earth's first true warship, designed when humanity was still new to the galaxy. Its weapons were based on human military history, not the clean energy weapons that other civilizations used. After one test flight, the Galactic Council had called the ship disturbing and inappropriate for civilized warfare. Earth had mothballed it, locked it away in the shipyard, and tried to forget about it. "That ship nearly started a diplomatic incident," Ben said. "The Council threatened sanctions." "I know," Lisa said. "But, sir, we're past diplomacy now. The Wraith are coming to exterminate us. Maybe it's time to stop playing by their rules." Ben stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Get it ready. You have 72 hours. Lisa stood up. "I'll need a crew and a captain." Ben thought for a moment, then made a decision that surprised everyone. "Get Jake Morrison." Jake Morrison was sitting in the observation deck of the shipyard when Lisa found him. He was 52 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. Once, he had been one of Earth's best officers. Now he gave tours to visiting dignitaries and filed maintenance reports. Museum duty, they called it. A quiet way to end a career. "Jake," Lisa said, sitting down beside him, "they're bringing the Valiant back online." Jake looked at her, surprised. "You're joking?" "I wish I was." Lisa pulled out a datapad and showed him the orders. "The Wraith are coming. Ben wants you to captain it." Jake laughed, but there was no humor in it. "The Valiant. That ship is a fossil, and I'm not much better." "You're the only officer still in service who flew on her," Lisa said. "You know her systems. You know what she can do." "I know what she did," Jake said quietly. "We ran one combat simulation. One. The Valiant tore apart the target fleet in 11 minutes. The Galactic observers called it butchery. They said humans fought like barbarians." "Maybe that's what we need to be," Lisa said. "The Wraith won't expect it. They think we're soft. They think we'll follow their rules of war. But Jake, those rules were written by species who never had to fight for survival like we did. Earth's history is full of wars. We know how to fight dirty." Jake stood up and walked to the window. Below, he could see the Valiant in its dock. The ship was dark, covered in dust and neglect. It looked like a relic from another age. In a way, it was. While other species had evolved beyond physical weapons, humans had just gotten better at using them. "What's the Valiant got that our modern ships don't?" Jake asked. Lisa smiled. Everything that scares them. Railguns that fire solid metal at relativistic speeds, nuclear-tipped missiles, mines that don't just explode, they create electromagnetic pulses, and a tactical AI that was programmed by people who studied every human war from the ancient Greeks to the resource wars. The Valiant doesn't fight fair, Jake. She fights to win. Jake turned to look at Lisa. She was one of his oldest friends. They had gone through the academy together, back when humanity was still optimistic about joining the galactic community. They had both believed Earth could be different. They could show the galaxy that humans were civilized, peaceful, evolved. But the galaxy hadn't cared. Earth was small, weak, and ignorant of the power games that the old empires played. The Galactic Council had smiled and welcomed humanity, then put them in their place. Earth got the scraps, the bad systems, the worlds nobody else wanted. And now, the Kraith were coming to take even that away. "All right," Jake said. "I'll do it. But Lisa, if we use this ship, if we fight the way the Valiant was designed to fight, there's no going back. The galaxy will see us differently." "Good," Lisa said. "Let them see us. Let them see what happens when you back humans into a corner." Jake walked with Lisa down to the docking bay. The Valiant sat in the darkness like a sleeping predator. It was smaller than modern warships, with a hull that was angular and brutal rather than sleek. The ship looked dangerous, even sitting still. A crew was already gathering. Young officers who had volunteered, knowing this might be a one-way mission. Old veterans who remembered what the Valiant represented, engineers who were curious to see if 40-year-old human weapons could really make a difference. Jake stopped at the airlock and placed his hand on the hull. The metal was cold. Somewhere inside, the ship's AI was waiting, running calculations, preparing for war. The Valiant had been built for one purpose: to show the galaxy that humanity could fight. That mission had been canceled 40 years ago. Now, it was back on. "Let's wake her up," Jake said. The Valiant's interior smelled like old metal and stale air. Jake walked through the corridors with Lisa and a young officer named Ryan Pierce. Ryan was 28, fresh from the academy, and clearly skeptical about the old ship. He kept looking at the outdated control panels and the bulky mechanical systems with barely hidden doubt. "Sir, with respect," Ryan said, "this ship is ancient. Our modern vessels have quantum shields and plasma cannons. This thing has... what? Metal bullets?" Jake stopped walking and turned to face him. "Lieutenant, what do you know about the history of warfare?" Ryan blinked. "Sir?" "Humor me," Jake said. "What's the most important principle of combat?" "Superior firepower?" Ryan guessed. "Surprise," Jake said. "The side that does what the enemy doesn't expect usually wins. And Ryan, the Kraith have never faced metal bullets fired at a fraction of light speed. They've never seen nuclear warheads. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons. We're bringing a completely different kind of fight." They reached the bridge. Lisa activated the main systems, and lights flickered on across the command center. The displays were older models, but they worked. In the center of the bridge, a holographic interface materialized. A calm voice spoke. "Captain Morrison," the AI said, "it has been 14,612 days since last activation. Welcome back." "Hello, Charlie," Jake said. The AI had been nicknamed Charlie by the original crew, though nobody remembered why anymore. "Are you ready for combat operations?" "I have been ready for 14,612 days, Charlie replied. "I have spent this time running simulations. I have analyzed 3,407 potential battle scenarios against known galactic military forces. My conclusion: human weapons doctrine provides significant tactical advantages against conventional galactic fleets." Ryan looked impressed despite himself. "The AI has been wargaming for 40 years? "Charlie doesn't sleep," Lisa said, typing commands into a console. "He's been preparing for this fight since the day they shut him down. Show him, Charlie." The holographic display changed, showing a simulation of a battle. On one side, a fleet of ships with interlocked energy shields formed a traditional wall formation. On the other, the Valiant appeared alone. The simulation ran at high speed. The Valiant fired thousands of tungsten rods from its railgun system. The rods punched through the enemy shields like they weren't there. Ships exploded. The formation collapsed. The entire battle lasted 90 seconds. Galactic warfare is ritualized, Charlie explained. Fleets meet in open space. They form defensive walls. They exchange fire at medium range until one side's shields fail. It is predictable, inefficient. Human weapons ignore these conventions. A woman in her 60s entered the bridge. She had gray hair and sharp eyes. Jake recognized her immediately. Dr. Emma Walsh had been the lead weapons designer on the Valiant project. She had quit defense work after the ship was mothballed, disgusted by what she had created. "Emma," Jake said, surprised. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Neither did I," Emma said quietly. She looked around the bridge like she was seeing a ghost. "But Lisa called me. Said you needed help bringing the weapons online." I thought about saying no. "I've spent 40 years trying to forget this ship." "Why did you come?" Jake asked. Emma met his eyes. "Because the Kraith are coming to kill us. And I realized something. I didn't make these weapons because I'm a monster. I made them because I studied human history. I saw what we're capable of when we fight for survival. It's not pretty. It's not honorable. But it works." She paused. "The galaxy called us barbarians for building this ship. Maybe they were right. But maybe barbarians are what you need when civilized warfare means extinction." Over the next 48 hours, the crew brought the Valiant fully online. They loaded the magazines with tungsten rods, armed the missiles, and calibrated the targeting systems. Jake watched as engineers pulled equipment that was older than some of the crew members and made it work through expertise and improvisation. A grizzled chief petty officer named Dan Cooper ran the weapons deck. He had served on the Valiant during its original test flight. He was 60 years old, scarred from a dozen conflicts, and he moved through the weapons systems like he had never left. "Captain," Dan said during one inspection, "I know what people say about this ship, that she's too aggressive, too brutal. But I was there during the test. I saw what these weapons can do. And I'll tell you something. The Kraith are going to wish we had stayed retired." Jake pulled up the tactical reports on the Kraith fleet. 312 ships. The latest intelligence showed them entering the outer solar system. They would reach Neptune in 3 days, then push toward Earth. Admiral Carter's plan was to meet them with Earth's 47 modern warships and hope for a miracle. But Jake had a different idea. "Charlie," he said, "show me Neptune's orbital characteristics and pull up data on the Kraith battle formations." The AI displayed the information. Neptune was a gas giant with strong electromagnetic fields and violent storms. The Kraith traditionally formed a wall formation when attacking, interlocking their shields for maximum protection. Jake smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "Lisa, how fast can the Valiant's stealth systems mask us?" he asked. "In Neptune's electromagnetic shadow, we'd be invisible," Lisa said. "Why?" "Because we're not going to wait for them to reach Earth," Jake said. "We're going to hit them at Neptune. Hard. Fast. And in a way they'll never expect." Ryan looked at the numbers on his screen. "Sir, it's 1 ship against 300. Even with surprise, the odds are impossible." "The odds were impossible for the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae," Jake said. "They still held the pass. We're not trying to win a fair fight, Lieutenant. We're trying to make them bleed, make them scared, make them think twice about pushing forward." Emma spoke up. "Jake, if you use the Valiant's full arsenal, if you fight the way this ship was designed to fight, the casualties will be massive. The Kraith losses could be in the thousands." Are you prepared for that? Jake turned to look at her. His face was hard. Emma, they came here to exterminate us, to take our worlds and erase our colonies. I'm not going to fight fair. I'm going to fight to win. And if that means showing the galaxy what humans are really capable of, then so be it. The crew worked through the night. They loaded every weapon. They plotted firing solutions. They prepared the ship for combat like a warrior sharpening their blade before battle. On the third day, the Valiant left Earth orbit. It traveled alone, a single dark shape moving through the solar system toward Neptune. Behind it, Earth's main fleet prepared to follow, but they would arrive hours later. The Valiant was going to face the EntireEmpire alone. As the ship jumped to high speed, Jake sat in the captain's chair and looked at his crew. They were scared but determined. They knew the odds. They knew this might be a one-way trip. "All hands," Jake said over the ship-wide comm. "This is the captain. What we're about to do has never been done before. We're taking human weapons of war against a galactic empire. They think we're primitive. They think we're weak. Let's show them what happens when you underestimate Earth." The crew cheered. It wasn't loud or confident. It was the cheer of people who knew they might die but refused to go quietly. The Valiant raced toward Neptune, toward the Wraith fleet, toward history. The Valiant reached Neptune 12 hours before the Wraith fleet arrived. Jake positioned the ship in the planet's shadow, using the massive gas giant's electromagnetic field to hide their presence. The crew worked in near silence, running final system checks and preparing for combat. Everyone knew what was coming. Ryan Pierce monitored the long-range sensors from his tactical station. He was nervous, his hands shaking slightly as he tracked the approaching Wraith fleet. Lisa moved between engineering stations, making sure every system was at peak performance. Emma sat at the weapons console, her face pale but focused. Dan Cooper stood ready at the firing controls, calm and steady. "Contact," Ryan said suddenly. 312 ships dropping out of hyperspace. Range, 2 million kilometers. Jake watched the display as the Wraith fleet materialized. It was massive, a wall of warships that stretched across space like a metal city. Each ship was larger than the Valiant. Their shields glowed with energy, and their weapons arrays tracked in all directions, searching for threats. "Charlie, status," Jake said quietly. "All weapon systems optimal," the AI responded. "Enemy fleet is forming traditional defensive wall formation. They have not detected us. Recommended action. Initiate attack sequence." Jake watched as the Wraith ships moved into position. They were forming up exactly as Charlie had predicted. Shield overlapping shield, creating an interconnected defensive barrier that would stop any energy weapon. It was textbook galactic warfare, honorable, civilized, and completely vulnerable to what the Valiant was about to do. A transmission came through from the Wraith flagship. A massive alien appeared on screen. He had 4 eyes and gray-scaled skin. This was War Master Thelkor, commander of the fleet. His voice was deep and filled with contempt. "Humans of Earth," Thelkor said, "this is your final warning. Surrender the colony worlds of New Boston, Prairie Landing, and Summit Station. You have 1 hour to comply. If you refuse, we will cleanse your homeworld of all life. Your resistance is meaningless. Your ships are weak. Your civilization is nothing. Choose extinction or submission." The transmission ended. Jake sat still for a moment, letting the anger settle. Then he stood up. "All hands, battle stations," he said. His voice was calm, cold. "Weapons free. Charlie, execute attack pattern Alpha." "Executing," Charlie said. The Valiant powered up its main weapon. The kinetic cascade system hummed with energy as it prepared to fire. Along the ship's spine, thousands of tungsten rods loaded into magnetic accelerators. Each rod was 2 meters long and weighed 50 kilograms. They weren't explosive. They didn't need to be. At the speed they would travel, they would hit with the force of small nuclear weapons. "Firing solution locked," Dan reported. All systems green. Jake took a breath. Fire. The Valiant shuddered as the railgun unleashed hell. 50,000 tungsten rods launched in a calculated spread pattern, accelerating to a fraction of light speed. They crossed 2 million kilometers in seconds. The Kraith fleet never saw them coming. The rods hit the defensive wall like invisible hammers. They punched through energy shields that were designed to stop lasers and plasma. Metal tore through metal. Ships exploded from the inside as the rods passed completely through their hulls. The carefully maintained formation collapsed into chaos as vessels broke apart or lost power. "Hits confirmed," Ryan said, his voice shocked. 47 ships destroyed, another 32 heavily damaged. They're breaking formation. The Kraith fleet scattered in panic. Alarms screamed across hundreds of ships as commanders tried to understand what had hit them. They had shields. Their defenses were active, but the attacks had passed through like the shields weren't even there. "Deploy mines," Jake ordered. "Pattern Delta." The Valiant released a spread of electromagnetic pulse mines across the space where the Kraith ships were retreating. The mines drifted silently, waiting. When the first Kraith vessel passed close, the mines detonated. Massive electromagnetic pulses rippled outward, frying electronics and disabling shields. 18 more ships went dark, drifting helplessly. War Master Thelkor appeared on screen again. His composure was gone. He looked shocked, angry, and for the first time, afraid. "What have you done?" he demanded. "What weapons are these? This is barbaric. This violates every convention of civilized warfare." Jake stepped forward, his face hard. "You came to my home to commit genocide. You threatened to kill billions of humans. And you're worried about conventions? Here's Earth's answer, War Master. We're done playing by your rules. You want to fight? You've got one." He cut the transmission. "Sir, the Kraith fleet is regrouping," Ryan said. 180 ships are still operational. They're adapting their formation, spreading out. They're hunting for us." "Good," Jake said. "Let them hunt. Charlie, take us into Neptune's upper atmosphere. Use the storm systems for cover." The Valiant dove toward Neptune, disappearing into the swirling clouds and electromagnetic chaos of the gas giant. The Kraith ships followed, but their sensors couldn't track through the interference. They were firing blindly, hoping to hit something. Jake used the confusion to reposition. The Valiant emerged from the storms on the fleet's flank and fired another spread of tungsten rods. 8 more Kraith ships exploded. Then the Valiant vanished back into the clouds before return fire could hit them. "They're getting angry," Lisa said, monitoring enemy communications. "Thelkor is ordering his ships to converge on Neptune. He's sending 60 vessels to sweep the planet." "Then we give them a target," Jake said. He turned to Dan. "Load the nuclear torpedoes. Full spread." Emma looked up sharply. "Jake, if you use those—" "I know," Jake said, "but we need to buy time. Earth's fleet won't arrive for 6 more hours. We have to keep the Kraith off balance." The Valiant positioned itself at the edge of Neptune's rings. As the 60 Kraith ships approached, the old warship launched 12 nuclear-tipped missiles. The weapons accelerated, their guidance systems locked on target. The Kraith commanders saw the missiles coming. They targeted them with point defense systems, destroying 8 of the 12. But 4 got through. They detonated in the middle of the Kraith formation. The nuclear explosions lit up space like new suns. The electromagnetic pulses knocked out shields on nearby ships. The thermal radiation melted armor. The shock waves sent vessels tumbling. When the light faded, 23 Kraith ships were destroyed. Another 15 were crippled. But the cost was high. The Valiant's position was now exposed. The remaining Kraith ships turned toward them, weapons charging. "Evasive maneuvers," Jake ordered. "All power to engines!" The Valiant ran. Kraith energy beams lanced through space, missing by meters. The old ship shook as near misses overloaded its shields. Alarms blared across the bridge. "Shields at 40%, Lisa called out. "We can't take many more hits." Captain, Charlie said, the Kraith are adapting their tactics. They are no longer fighting as a unified fleet. They are hunting us like a pack. This is more efficient. Jake gritted his teeth. The Kraith had learned. They were no longer the arrogant empire that had expected an easy victory. They were treating the Valiant like a real threat. And with over 150 ships still operational, they had the numbers to corner the old warship. We've bloodied their nose, Jake said. But the real fight is just starting. Charlie, initialize Protocol Chaos. It's time to show them what human warfare really looks like. Acknowledged, Charlie said. Protocol Chaos active. Tactical doctrine shifting to guerrilla operations. The Valiant disappeared into the darkness of space, and the game of cat and mouse began. The battle for Earth had truly started, and the galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson. Humans didn't fight fair. They fought to survive, and they were very, very good at it. Protocol Chaos was a tactical doctrine that no other species in the galaxy used. It was based on human military history from centuries of warfare on Earth. Submarine tactics, guerrilla warfare, ambush, and retreat. The principle was simple. Never fight fair, never be where the enemy expects, and make them fear the darkness. Jake ran the Valiant like a submarine captain from Earth's old naval wars. The ship moved silently through space, using planets and moons for cover. They would appear, strike hard, and vanish before the Kraith could respond. It was exhausting, it was brutal, and it was working. Over the next 16 hours, the Valiant picked off Kraith ships one by one. They used Jupiter's massive radiation belts to mask their movements. They hid in Saturn's rings and ambushed passing vessels. They created false sensor contacts that sent Kraith hunters racing toward empty space while the real Valiant struck from another direction entirely. Contact destroyed, Dan reported after another strike. That's 17 ships in the last 4 hours. The crew was tired. They had been at battle stations for nearly a full day. Ryan's eyes were red from staring at tactical displays. Lisa worked constantly to keep the aging systems running. Emma coordinated weapons fire with mechanical precision, her face showing no emotion, even as she authorized strikes that killed hundreds. But the cost was mounting. The Valiant took damage with each engagement. A near miss from a Kraith plasma cannon had scorched the hull. A piece of debris had punctured the outer armor. The shields were down to 20%, and worst of all, they were running out of ammunition. Captain, Charlie said during a brief quiet moment, current tactical assessment. We have reduced enemy forces from 312 ships to 147. However, our munitions are at critical levels. Tungsten rods at 18%, nuclear weapons depleted, conventional missiles at 32%. Recommendation: withdraw and resupply. No, Jake said. If we leave, the Kraith push toward Earth. We stay. Lisa looked up from her console. Jake, we can't hold them forever. Earth's fleet should have been here by now. Where are they? As if answering her question, a transmission came through. It was Admiral Carter. His face was grim. Valiant, this is Carter. We're 8 hours out. The Kraith sent a secondary fleet to intercept us. We're engaged in combat near Mars. I'm sorry, Jake. You're on your own for now. The transmission ended. The bridge was quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. The Valiant had to hold the Kraith fleet alone for 8 more hours, with depleted weapons, against nearly 150 enemy ships. Suggestions? Jake asked his senior officers. Emma spoke first. She had been quiet for most of the battle, focused on her weapons console. Now she looked up, and there was something dark in her eyes. There's one weapon we haven't used, she said quietly. The wormhole mine. Lisa turned sharply. Emma, no. That weapon was never fully tested. It could tear the Valiant apart along with everything else. What is it? Ryan asked. Emma explained. During the original Valiant project, we experimented with exotic weapons. The wormhole mine creates a temporary spatial collapse. It opens a tiny wormhole that immediately collapses. The gravitational shear tears apart anything within a 5-kilometer radius. But the energy requirements are enormous. We'd have to use our main reactor. And the risk, Jake asked. The ship needs to be at least 10 kilometers away when it detonates, Emma said. If we're any closer, we get pulled in. If the reactor destabilizes during setup, we explode. If the wormhole doesn't collapse properly, it could grow. It's the most dangerous weapon we ever designed. That's why it was never approved for use. Jake looked at the tactical display. The Kraith fleet was still hunting them, but they had adapted. They were working in coordinated groups now, covering each other's blind spots. It was getting harder to find isolated targets. Eventually, the Kraith would corner the Valiant, and when that happened, one ship against dozens would mean certain death. How many ships could we take with us? Jake asked. If we position it right? Emma did calculations on her console. Maybe 40, maybe 50. It depends on how tightly they're grouped. Jake made his decision. Prepare the wormhole mine. We'll lure them into a trap. Over the next hour, the crew converted the Valiant's main reactor into a weapon. It was delicate, dangerous work. Engineers worked in the reactor room wearing protective suits, knowing that one mistake would kill everyone instantly. Emma supervised, her hands steady even though she was preparing a weapon that terrified her. Meanwhile, Jake planned the trap. He studied the Kraith movement patterns and found what he was looking for. Near Saturn, a large group of ships was sweeping the area in a coordinated search pattern. 60 vessels moving together. Charlie, plot a course that makes us look damaged, Jake said. I want them to think they finally got us cornered. Course plotted, Charlie said. Recommend, allow enemy weapons to hit non-critical systems. This will make the deception more convincing. Do it, Jake said. The Valiant limped toward Saturn, trailing atmosphere from a deliberately vented compartment. Its shields flickered. Its engines appeared to be failing. To the Kraith, it looked like a wounded animal finally running out of strength. The trap worked perfectly. 60 Kraith ships converged on the Valiant, sensing an easy kill. They formed a net around the old Earth ship, tightening the circle. Their weapons charged. They were seconds from firing. Reactor mine is armed, Emma said, her voice shaking slightly. Releasing in 3, 2, 1. The Valiant ejected its reactor. The massive cylinder tumbled away into space, still glowing with power. Then the Valiant fired its emergency thrusters, burning every bit of fuel to get away. The ship accelerated hard, racing to get clear. Behind them, the Kraith ships closed in on the reactor, confused about what the humans had done. Then the wormhole mine detonated. Space itself screamed. A point of absolute darkness appeared, then expanded. It wasn't an explosion. It was a wound in reality. The wormhole opened for 3 seconds, and in those 3 seconds, it pulled everything nearby into a gravitational shear that nothing could survive. 43 Kraith ships were torn apart. Metal folded like paper. Shields meant nothing against the fundamental forces of space-time. Ships that were kilometers away were dragged toward the wormhole, colliding with each other in the chaos. Then the wormhole collapsed. The darkness vanished. Where there had been 60 Kraith ships, now there were 17. The rest were gone, reduced to scattered debris. The Valiant barely escaped. The gravitational pull had damaged the hull and collapsed the emergency thrusters. Warning lights flashed across every console. Lisa worked frantically to keep basic systems online. Status report, Jake said, breathing hard. Life support stable, Lisa said. But we're done, Jake. No weapons, no shields. Engines are at minimum power. We can't run anymore. We can't fight anymore. Ryan checked his sensors. The remaining Kraith fleet is regrouping. 94 ships left. They're heading toward Mars, toward Earth. Jake slumped in his chair. They had done everything possible. They had destroyed over 200 Kraith ships. They had bought Earth time, but it wasn't enough. Then Dan spoke up. He was sitting at his weapons station, looking at an old photograph he kept in his pocket. It showed him as a young man, standing in front of the Valiant on its first day. "Captain," Dan said quietly, "we're not done yet. We've still got one weapon left." "What weapon?" Jake asked. Dan looked up, and there was something fierce in his old eyes. "The ship itself. We ram the Kraith flagship, take out their command, make them leaderless." The bridge went silent. Everyone understood what Dan was suggesting. A suicide run. Jake looked at his crew. They were exhausted. Some were injured. They had fought beyond anything that should have been asked of them. And now Dan was proposing they give their lives for one last strike. "I can't order that," Jake said. "You don't have to," Lisa said quietly. She stood up from her station. "I volunteer." One by one, the other crew members stood. Ryan, Emma, Dan, everyone on the bridge. Jake felt something break inside his chest. Pride, grief, love for these people who were willing to die for Earth. "All right," he said, his voice rough. "Then let's make it count. Charlie, plot a course for the Kraith flagship. Maximum speed. We're going to end this." The Valiant, battered and dying, turned toward the enemy fleet, toward one final battle, toward the end. The Valiant moved toward the Kraith fleet like a wounded animal making one last desperate attack. Jake sat in the captain's chair, watching the distance close on his tactical display. Behind him, the crew worked in silence. Everyone knew these were likely their final moments. 5 minutes to contact," Ryan said quietly. Jake opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the captain. I want you to know it has been my honor to serve with you. What we've done here will be remembered. Earth will remember. The galaxy will remember. We came out here with one old ship and proved that humans don't quit. We don't surrender. And we sure as hell don't go quietly." The crew sent back acknowledgments, short messages of farewell. Some prayed. Some wrote final messages to loved ones that would never be sent. Dan Cooper simply sat at his empty weapons console and waited with calm acceptance. "Captain," Charlie said, "I have been running probability calculations for the past 6 hours. The statistical likelihood of our survival was always minimal, but we have exceeded all projections. We destroyed 218 enemy vessels. We delayed their advance by 20 hours. We have already accomplished more than any simulation predicted." "Thanks, Charlie," Jake said. "Any regrets?" "I am artificial intelligence," Charlie replied. "I do not experience regret. However, if I could, I would not regret this battle. It was what I was created for." 2 minutes, Ryan said. The Kraith flagship grew larger on the view screen. It was enormous, dwarfing the Valiant by a factor of 10. Warmaster Thelkor's command ship was a fortress of armor and weapons. But none of that would matter if the Valiant hit it at full speed. The kinetic impact would tear through the flagship like a missile. Then something unexpected happened. Lisa looked up sharply from her console. "Jake, I'm picking up new contacts, a lot of them, jumping in from hyperspace." "The Kraith reinforcements?" Jake asked. "No," Lisa said, her voice rising with shock. "They're ours. The Earth fleet. All 47 ships, and they're not alone. I'm reading ships from a dozen other species. They're here to help us." Jake stood up quickly, moving to Lisa's station. The sensor data was clear. Earth's fleet had arrived early, having fought through the Kraith intercept force faster than expected. And with them came warships from other civilizations, species that Earth had helped over the years, trade partners, allies that the Galactic Council didn't know Earth had made. Admiral Carter's face appeared on screen. He was bloodied and tired, but he was smiling. "Valiant, we got your tactical data," Carter said. "We saw what you did to the Kraith fleet. The whole galaxy is watching, Jake. Your battle is being broadcast on every communication channel. We came as fast as we could, and we brought friends." Another face appeared. Captain Helen Park of the UES Constitution. Captain Morrison, Earth's fleet is adopting your tactics. We're done fighting by their rules. Time to show the Kraith what happens when you threaten humanity. The Earth fleet spread out, using the attack patterns that the Valiant had demonstrated. They abandoned traditional formations. They struck fast and retreated. They used weapons that the Kraith didn't expect. And they fought with a ferocity that surprised even themselves. The alien ships that had joined them added their own firepower. A cargo hauler from the Nexian species fired mining lasers at Kraith vessels. A passenger liner from the Velen people used its powerful engines to ram a Kraith destroyer. Species that had been dismissed as weak by the galactic powers were showing that when pushed, anyone could fight. Jake watched it unfold on his screens. The Kraith fleet, already battered by the Valiant's assault, now faced a coordinated attack from dozens of ships using unconventional tactics. They were overwhelmed, confused, afraid. War Master Thelkor appeared on screen one final time. His 4 eyes stared at Jake with something that looked like respect, mixed with fear. "You are not what we expected," Thelkor said. "We thought humans were weak, civilized, easy prey. We were wrong. This is not a battle we can win. Not anymore." "Then leave," Jake said. "Take your fleet and go home. Tell the Kraith Empire that Earth is off limits. Tell them what happens when they underestimate us." Thelkor was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. "The Galactic Council will hear of this. They will not be pleased. You have violated their conventions of warfare. You have shown the galaxy weapons they deemed too brutal to use. You have changed everything." "Good," Jake said. "Maybe it's time the galaxy changed." The transmission ended. The Kraith fleet began to retreat, jumping to hyperspace in organized groups. Within 15 minutes, they were gone. The battle was over. The bridge of the Valiant erupted in cheers. Crew members hugged each other. Some cried. Others just sat down, overwhelmed by the realization that they had survived. Lisa laughed, a sound of pure relief and joy. Ryan shouted victoriously. Even Emma smiled, though tears ran down her face. Jake just sat down heavily in his chair. His hands were shaking. He had been prepared to die. They all had been, and now they were alive. Earth was safe. The Kraith were gone. "Captain," Charlie said, "I am receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They are demanding an explanation for our weapons usage." Jake laughed. It was a tired, bitter sound. "Tell them we'll send a representative. After we finish repairs, after we bury our dead, after we've had time to rest, they can wait." Over the next few days, the truth of what happened at Neptune spread across the galaxy. The footage of the battle was seen by billions. The Valiant's tactics were analyzed by military strategists from 100 species, and humanity's reputation changed overnight. No longer were humans the weak newcomers to the galactic community. Now they were the species that had fought off an empire with one old warship. The species that didn't play by the rules. The species that fought to win. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Some members wanted to sanction Earth for using barbaric weapons. But others pointed out that the Kraith had come to commit genocide. Earth had defended itself, and the methods didn't matter as much as the result. In the end, the Council took no action. But the message was clear. Humanity was no longer something to be pushed around. Jake was promoted to Admiral and given command of Earth's defense modernization program. His mission was to rebuild the fleet using the lessons learned from the Valiant. Lisa became Chief of Warship Design. Emma accepted a position as Head of Weapons Research, though she swore to only create defensive systems. Ryan took command of the Valiant herself. The old ship was repaired and upgraded, turned into a training vessel where new officers would learn the tactics that had saved Earth. 6 months after the battle, Jake stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital station. He watched ships come and go. Human vessels now flew with confidence. Other species gave them respect and space. Kate Sullivan, the ambassador, joined him. "The Kraith formally requested a peace treaty," she said. "They're offering trade agreements and a non-aggression pact. They want to make sure we don't come after them." Jake smiled. "Good. That's exactly what we needed. Not conquest. Just respect." "The galaxy is different now," Kate said, "because of what you did. Some species fear us, some admire us, but none of them underestimate us anymore." Jake looked at Earth below, blue and green and beautiful. Millions of people down there had no idea how close they had come to extinction, how close the Valiant had come to being humanity's last stand. "We didn't want to be warriors," Jake said quietly. "We wanted to be explorers, scientists, diplomats, but they pushed us, and we showed them what humans are capable of when we fight for survival." "What happens now?" Kate asked. Jake turned to her. "Now, we rebuild, we stay strong, and we make sure the galaxy remembers. You don't threaten Earth. You don't underestimate humanity, because we fight dirty, we fight smart, and we fight to win. Always." Far out in space, the Valiant continued its patrol, a reminder of the day humanity proved it belonged among the stars, not as the strongest species, not as the most advanced, but as the ones who would never ever give up.